All right. Now clickety button. She should let out. There we go. Okay. All right. Because the rest of the plagues that we're going through in Exodus, they pretty much echo what we've already read. Today we're going to pick up the pace. We're going to summarize the last five. We're going to investigate briefly the first four plagues because we've already covered them. But basically, what we're just pointing out, Ken, you haven't been here for a while. What we're just pointing out is Yah's consistent. He's done this with the first Exodus. We know there's a greater Exodus coming. We're looking at the comparisons between them, and we've had some younger folks in the fellowship. It's been good for them to get briefed on this, and it's good. It's a good refresher for us as we go through it and we look. So, going through the plagues and the observations that are important to us is when we started in Genesis 15. Yah chooses his people. He chose. He is the Elohim of Abram, who was chosen, and we took steps through that to see how he was chosen and called out from everybody else. And then he's the Elohim of Isaac, who was also chosen. He was told, Abram and Sarah were told they were going to have a son. His name was going to be Isaac, and the same with Jacob. Yah directs and steers his people. He told Abraham that his descendants would be in a land that's not their own and that they would be oppressed. And Yah orchestrated the birth of and chose a wife for Isaac. We walked through that. He orchestrated the birth of the twins and selected the older to serve the younger. He orchestrated the path for Joseph to get to that foreign land Abram was warned about before the whole family was brought in. Joseph himself brought that up. In Genesis 45, verses 5, 7, and 8, when Joseph was revealing himself to his brothers, he told them, "But now, do not therefore be grieved or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For Elohim sent me before you to preserve life." And in verse 7 it says, "And Elohim sent me before you to preserve posterity for you on the earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance." Joseph knew the deliverance was coming. Didn't know how soon, but he knew it was coming. And then in verse 8, "So it was not you who sent me here, but Elohim. And he has made me a father to Pharaoh and lord of all his house and a ruler throughout the land of Egypt." So again, we see that Yah's in complete control. He's just as in control today as he was back then. It doesn't matter that it looks chaotic. He's never lost cadence. He's right in step with where his plan is. Yah selected Moses and protected him at the time Pharaoh was killing the newborn Israelite males. He caused Moses to be brought up in Pharaoh's house. But before that, he allowed Moses' own mother to nurse him until they got to the point of weaning him off, right? He called Moses in the wilderness and he gave him an assignment. The prophet Moses was to lead Yah's people out of the bondage of Egypt. Yah proves his faithfulness to Abraham by using Moses to deliver Abram's descendants. And Yah tells Moses that he is as Elohim to Aaron, Yah's people, and he is as Elohim to Pharaoh, the world. He's telling them, you represent me. You are like, this is what people see visually of me. Okay? So in Exodus 4, verse 16, this is Yah speaking. So he shall be your spokesman, speaking of Aaron, to the people. And he himself shall be as a mouth for you, and you shall be to him as Elohim. And Yah was revealing that to his own people at that time. He's revealing his visitation. He's revealing he's coming back. But he also reveals it to the world, those that don't know him and choose to get to know him the hard way. Or, you know what I mean. Okay. So, Yah said to Moses also in chapter 7, verse 1, see, I have made you as Elohim to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother shall be your prophet. So now we've already covered the water to blood, but I just wanted to point out 3 bullet points here. That was in Exodus 7, 14 through 25. Yah revealed a false god at that point. He revealed a false Egyptian god of the Nile and another god of the fish, okay? And he revealed it in an incredible stench in all of this. The Egyptian magicians were able to duplicate this, but really isn't it a moot point? I mean, they're killing the fish, and then I said this happened it also happened amongst Yah's people. Now, again, when we're thinking about the target here, we're looking at the original Exodus and the greater Exodus that's coming. There's going to be similarities. I think we're going to see miracles. I think we're going to see a lot of death. I think it's going to be confined and there's going to be a lot of confusion. All right? But I think Yah's going to reveal himself as Yah. And the world's not going to like it. I mean, we get to the book of Revelation and we see people shaking their fist. And rocks are falling down. And they're hiding in caves. And they still refuse. The second plague was frogs. He revealed the false Egyptian goddess who had the head of a frog, and she was supposed to be a fertility god. And there's another stench. The Egyptian magicians were able to duplicate this one as well, and this happened in Goshen as well. The gnats and the lice were the third plague. Exodus 8, 16 through 19. Yah revealed the false Egyptian earth god. The Egyptian priests and magicians, they couldn't do this one. But what they could do was admit to Pharaoh that this is the finger of Elohim. And this one apparently happened in Goshen as well. Now, the flies were the fourth plague in Exodus 8, 20 verses 20 through 32. And Yah revealed the false Egyptian god. But this time, Yah sets apart his people. He begins to make a difference. He sets apart Goshen from the rest of Egypt. And from this time on, he separates his people. In Exodus 8:22, and in that day I will set apart the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there, in order that you may know I am Yahweh in the midst of the land. Now, we remember, I'm going to get to it a little bit later, but I want to bring it up here again, or here first. Pharaoh said he didn't know Yah. Why should he listen to Yah? Why should he let the people go? He didn't know him. He's getting to know him, slow but sure. The fifth plague, now that was a disease on the cattle in Exodus 9, 1 through 7. Yah reveals the false Egyptian gods associated with cows and bulls. Pay attention to this next bullet point. Yah killed all the Egyptian livestock. All of it. And I'm going to touch on that verse here. Goshen does not receive this plague. Okay? Listen to what happened in Exodus 9, verse 3. Behold, the hand of Yah will be on your cattle in the field. Now listen, it's not just the cows. The horse, the donkeys, the camels, the oxen, and on the sheep. A very severe pestilence. So Yah did this thing on the next day, and all the livestock of Egypt died. But the livestock of the children of Israel, not one of them died. In verse 7, it says, then Pharaoh sent, he's going to go check it out to make sure, right? He sent, but he's not going himself. He's sending somebody. And indeed, not even one of the livestock of the Israelites was dead. But the heart of Pharaoh became hard, and he did not let the people go. Now, it doesn't matter for some people to be totally aware that something's outside of their power or something, but they refuse to admit there's something bigger than them. Sometimes we see those people today. They're kinfolk of this one here, who's kinfolk of the one in the garden, right? So the sixth plague was the boils on men and women. Now this is starting to touch the people. Yah revealed the false gods of the epidemics and of healings. The magicians, I got it. Magicians. There was nobody playing the guitar or anything, okay? The magicians could not even appear in Pharaoh's court on this one. So they weren't there to stand by his side. And Goshen doesn't receive this plague either. The seventh plague was the plague of the hail. Yah revealed the false Egyptian goddess of the sky and the agricultural god. Nobody has supremacy over Yah. Nobody. This was the greatest storm in the history of Egypt, and it affected crops and livestock. Now this is, did I put the verse in here? Okay, the seventh plague continued from Exodus 9:13 through 35. Some in Egypt heeded Yah's word, and they brought in their servants. They brought in their livestock, okay, from getting killed. Exodus 9, verse 20. He who feared the word of Yah among the servants of Pharaoh made his servants and his livestock flee to the houses. But he who did not regard the word of Yah left his servants and his livestock in the field. Now, where did they get the livestock from? He just killed them all a couple of plagues ago. They had to get them from Egypt or from the Israelites, either by stealing or buying, one or the other. But they got the livestock back. And those that were paying attention said, well, he killed them once. He probably could kill them again. So get in the barn, right? Or get in whatever it is at that point, right? There were people that were hearing the word of Yah at that point. And we brought this up. Now, this is a beginning of seeing the bloodline and the quote-unquote Gentiles is still all in the same group. It's not something new that happened in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, okay? We know that. We've read through the Torah at least, 5 times since I've been here. The eighth plague was the plague of the locusts. Now, the hail didn't leave much. But Yah took care of what it did leave, okay? Now Yah said to Moses, go into Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the hearts of his servants, that I may show these signs of mine before them. He did it for a reason. He's hardening their hearts so that he can show the sign. Paul says it like this. He makes the vessels of honor and vessels of dishonor. And he's patient with that because he's going to show the vessels of dishonor who he is and what they were created for. They end up doing exactly what they were created to do. And now he does this so that you may tell in the hearing of your son and of your son's sons the mighty things that I have done in Egypt, and my signs which I have done among them, and that you may know that I am Elohim. Now remember, it's been a lot of years that they had been in Egypt at this point, and when you're in the world kind of grows on you, right? And you tend to forget, you tend to not think about, you get distracted. We were all warned about this. It will happen from Yah. Now here he comes back in and he's reminding them. He's showing them who he is as well. The 8th plague was the locusts. Yah revealed the false Egyptian god who was the protector from the locusts. So that guy got called out, whoever he thought he was, right? Or whoever Egypt thought he was. Locusts consumed whatever was left after the hailstorm, and this affected all the early crops. Okay? In Exodus 10, verse 7, Pharaoh's servants said to him, "How long shall this man be a snare to us? Let the men go, that they may serve Yahweh their Elohim. Do you not know that Egypt is destroyed?" Now this is Pharaoh's servants telling him, we are destroyed. Can't you see that? Can you imagine what it would be like to be in a place where your leader is destroying the country?
We are.
That's why I have tongue in cheek. Okay? It's not a happy place to be.
No.
And he either sees it and ignores it, or he doesn't see it. He saw it. He ignored it. I wouldn't say it's that much different today. The 9th plague was the darkness. Yah revealed the false Egyptian god of the sun. The darkness came at midday, the 6th hour, and it lasted for 3 days. That one, the accounts in Exodus 10:22. So Moses stretched out his hand toward the heaven, and there was thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. Verse 23. They did not see one another, nor did anyone rise from his place for 3 days. But all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. So, as I was reading this morning, it occurred to me that, this is one of those things I was talking to you about a little bit before. Why did he say it the way that he said it? Why did he leave this out? Why? If you look at Israel had light in their dwellings. It was dark in all of Israel, but inside the dwellings, the Israelites had light. That wasn't the case in Egypt. Have you ever been in a place that's so dark that you can't even see your hand in front of you? It is a darkness you can feel, and that's what they talked about. It's a darkness that you can feel. And you get disoriented. Now they were for 3 days, they didn't move. In verse 27, but Yah hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. Then Pharaoh said to him, "Get away from me, take heed to yourself, and see my face no more. For in the day that you see my face, you shall die." Let's stop there for a second. Do you see the haughtiness of this person? He's just witnessed his his nation being torn apart. Every god, apart from one, right? Him. He's seen be mute. There's nothing there. Everything we thought we had, there's no protection. And yet he's telling Moses, next time you see my face, you're going to die. So Moses said, "Well, you have spoken well. I will never see your face again. So, stopping at plague 9, because I'm going to spend some time on the last one over the next couple of weeks. I want to recap this, but I want to recap it from a different angle. I want to go back and look at what happened, because if we're right, and this first Exodus gives us an indication of what we're going to have in the greater Exodus, and we talked about it early on, we're going to have miracles and we're going to have death at the same time, and all this is going on. Let's really stop and look at what happened there. And is this going to be an indicator of what's going to happen when we get to this greater Exodus? Okay? So, Yah turned a rod into a snake and then back into a rod. This was before the whole thing as it was getting started. Yah gave Moses' hand leprosy and then took it away. He elevated Moses to be as, or to be like, Yah to both his people and the people of Egypt, the world. Okay? Now, Yah turned the water into blood, and that killed all the fish in the Nile River. How long do you think it took to replenish those fish in that water? That meant they didn't have a food source from the fish that they're so used to the river giving them. The food source is gone, right? On top of that, how long do you think that decay lasted? And what does that bring? Disease, yuckness, it's just nasty. Fish doesn't always smell good when it's fresh. Yah created an abundance of frogs. Yah killed an abundance of frogs. How long do you think that decay lasted? Did that affect anything long term? Yeah. And who eats the flies and the insects, right? Now if they're gone, Yah brought forth the lice. Now the magicians couldn't duplicate this. Did this plague ever get reversed? This tripped me out this morning as I was going through that. I went back through it. It doesn't. It doesn't mention in Scripture that this one got undone. He killed the frogs. He sent the locusts away. He moved it. This one didn't go away. And that's interesting. We learn something new every time we're moving through these pages and reading it again. Yah brought forth the flies, and he revealed the difference between his people and Pharaoh's people. Did this affect anything long term? Yeah, it did. See? Not everybody's getting delivered. We're all created for different things. And he's the one that's orchestrating it. He's the one that is letting this play out just the way he planned it. Yah brought disease to the cattle. And Yah killed all the cattle, the horses, the donkeys, etc. In 9 verse 3, Exodus 9 verse 3, behold, the hand of Yah will be on the cattle in the field, and on the horses, and on the donkeys, and on the camels, and on the oxen, and on the sheep, and a very severe pestilence. And Yah will make a difference between the livestock in Israel and the livestock in Egypt. So nothing shall die of all that belongs to the children of Israel. Verse 5, then Yah appointed a set time, saying, tomorrow Yah will do this thing in the land. Verse 6, so he did this thing the next day, and all the livestock of Egypt died. But the livestock of the children of Israel did not one of them died. He brought that disease to the cattle. He killed all of them. How did that impact Egypt long term? They were ruined. They couldn't do any agriculture because their animals that did it were killed, that were helping them, right? There's no meat, there's no milk. There's no farming production. The transportation is gone. Apparently they had enough horses to go after them at the end, but that's for us that have read ahead, right? But they didn't fare too well either. Yah didn't miss anybody, okay? But we don't often think about this. Now, if this is a picture of the greater Exodus, there's going to be a lot of filth and ugliness and just stuff that's really, really hard to comprehend. And he's going to have his hand on a certain people. It's going to be worldwide that he's going to have his hand on these certain people. But others are going to get totally devastated. If let me switch some terminology here. Instead of the hail and that kind of stuff, if the bowls and the trumpet judgments don't get them, what do they got after that? What's left for those people that Yah did not come to get? These people here, we still see grace because the wheat wasn't destroyed. So whatever the little population was that remained after this whole thing went down, okay, they still, it took a long time for Egypt to get back on its feet, okay? But they had to wait until the wheat was ready and then they could start, I think I put that in here. No, hold on. Yah brought boils, I'll get back to that. Yah brought boils on the people. Now the boils took the magicians out of the presence of Moses and Pharaoh. And now Pharaoh didn't have any sidekicks with him. He didn't have any supports. It's mano a mano, right? Or mano a dos, I guess. It was Moses and Aaron. Okay? So, Yah brought the hailstorm to the land like never been seen before. The hail destroyed man and beast, which they would have either bought or stolen from the Israelites or somebody in that area. Okay? Hail destroyed all the early herbs and crops. And hail destroyed the trees. This is devastation like we can't even fathom right now. But this has been written for us for thousands of years. We don't stop and think about it like this. But this is what's coming in the greater Exodus. Something similar. In Exodus 9:22, Yah said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand toward the heaven, and there will be hail in all the land of Egypt, on man, on beast, and on every herb of the field throughout the land of Egypt." And Moses stretched out his rod toward the heaven, and Yah sent thunder and hail, and fire darted to the ground. And Yah rained hail on the land of Egypt. So there was hail and fire mingled with the hail, so very heavy that there was none like it in all the land of Egypt since it became a nation. That one sounds a little bit, that fire and hail mixed together sounds a little familiar from the back of the book too, doesn't it? And the hail struck throughout the whole land of Egypt, all that was in the field, both man and beast, and the hail struck every herb and broke every tree in the field. Only in the land of Goshen, where the children of Israel were, was there no hail. It's encouraging for us that he doesn't lose track of us. He knows who we are. He knows where we are. It's been hundreds of years since the promise was made to Abram, and he didn't forget them. He didn't lose track of them. He knew exactly where they were. He knew exactly when Moses was born. He knew when Moses was going to be in that desert with that burning bush. Okay? That's the Elohim that we are following. I'm going to touch on just how much he hasn't forgotten and a little bit more here. So, what were the long-term effects of this? Israel's wiped out. Now, thinking about what we just talked about, with it being wiped out as bad as it was, okay? What is this guy thinking mustering an army to go after him? He hasn't got much of an army to muster.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. The grain supply was destroyed. Isn't that interesting? Isn't this the country that Joseph went to and stored the grain for the famine to save the world? Right? Now all their grain is destroyed. Isn't that interesting? The fruit trees were destroyed. More Egyptian men being killed off. Hail destroyed the trees. Now the flax and the barley were struck, for the barley was in the head and flax was in bud. But the wheat and the spelt were not struck, for they are late crops. So he's not killing them out completely in this one. Now Yah sends the locust to devour whatever wasn't ruined by the hail and all else that's taken place. The country that saved the world by storing up grain had their grain destroyed, and there's nearly nothing left of this place. Now there's a phrase that was going around, I don't know, it's been 15, 20 years ago, that some people, they do something rambunctious, and they'd say, how do you like me now? You know, how do you like me now? Well, Pharaoh said he didn't know Yah. He knows him. He doesn't respect him. He doesn't acknowledge him. He doesn't have victory over him either. Why did all of this happen? Let's go back to why did all this happen. Firstly, because Yah said it would happen. And Genesis 15 was one of the places that we picked out. He said it would happen. He called it. He's going to deliver them with a strong hand. He's going to deliver his people from this Egypt, from this nation, which is a picture of the world. He's going to deliver us, his people, from the world. He first promised it in Genesis 15. Now, another reason this happened is Pharaoh had every male child born to be killed, to thrown in the water, to be killed, right? He was killing the firstborn of Yah. Israel is known as the firstborn of Yah. And he's killing those males because he's trying to stop Israel from being Israel. That seems consistent. Did Yah request Pharaoh to let his people go? Did he request for Pharaoh to let his people go? No. He commanded it, didn't he? He said, let my people go. Now, Pharaoh seemed to acknowledge who his people were, but Yah went ahead and made it clear for everybody, right? But what's interesting, I touched on it earlier, it wasn't just the bloodline. It wasn't just the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. There were some that were servants of Pharaoh at the time that said, hey, I hear what he's saying, I believe what he's saying, I'm going to do what he says, and look what happened. Their livestock lived, right? We're going to find out when they leave. You guys already know all this. I don't want to tell you this. There's a mixed multitude that goes out. It's been the same. We need the young believers today to understand this. Actually, what we need them to do, Amanda and I were talking earlier, we need to get people to read, not commentaries. Read the Word first. Read the Word and read it over again.
Yeah, the people that stayed in Goshen was protected after
For,
from the end, because no cattle died, their crops didn't.
right,
Goshen was still in shape. It's a picture of protecting the people that are listening to what he says.
mhm,
He's gonna protect them. There's gonna be protection. There's gonna be a lot of turmoil, but at the same time, there's still gonna be protection, and it's gonna be visible so people can see it. There will be some that are lost, but there's still gonna be people that after a while, they're gonna say, wow.
exactly.
What's happening to these people, what's going on?
That's exactly right.
And that's gonna cause, just like it did with how bad it got, was there's Pharaoh that just had himself beat to death and half his country gone, was still gonna get an army after go beat him up and bring him back, right?
Right,
And there's gonna be people like that. They're gonna be so upset because people will be protected and be covered because the Creator, because they're following his instructions,
mhm,
which is gonna cause more enemies against them.
yep,
Kind of a two-edged sword, but there is protection there. Not everybody is doomed.
right,
And
That's true.
That's what the picture is all about.
Right.
This is a great picture of it, too.
just exactly, I mean, when it comes down, those of us that have been faithful and are following, he's going to be protecting us. And while it's all breaking loose, there's a lot of people out there that haven't yet, but when they start seeing this thing, it's like, wait a minute, right?
Well, yeah. Revelation, he says, in many places, but in two specific places, when he says, here is the endurance of my people, those that keep the covenants of Yahuwah and had the testimony of Yeshua. Though he's telling you who his people are.
Mhm.
So it's a two-edged, I mean, it's not really two-edged because
Right,
they're both the same, but it's still, the picture of it is there's where the protection lies in that itself.
and along those lines, let me ask you something, am I right? I'm gonna take a little liberty here, okay? You just said, had the Torah and the testimony of Yeshua, okay? They believed in Yeshua,
His gospel was the kingdom,
right,
right?
okay, so now, before Yeshua was Yeshua, he was the Word of God, right?
Since the beginning,
Right. So when,
it was manifested all the way through. When Moses said, look back and see your salvation, he didn't say see your salvation, he said see your deliverance. Yeshua means Yah's deliverance. And
Right.
so that's what he was pointing back at, see your deliverance. He's pointing it out.
right,
All the way, every place that you cover, anything where the people are being delivered, all of this stuff being protected from, all of these plagues and everything when they're in Goshen, that was, Yeshua that was the deliverance, that was him, that was the manifestation of him.
right.
It's the picture of him.
So when we get through Exodus and Leviticus and get the understanding, and they get on into where they're giving up sacrifices, okay? The guy that commits a sin and understands his sin knows from the Torah what it is he's supposed to bring as an offering. When he brings it in, he talks to the priest makes sure that what his sin is covered by this offering, right? All of it, then he kills the sinner, kills the offering, and then the priest offers it up. Didn't he just put his trust in the word of Yah?
Absolutely.
And the word of Yah is Yeshua.
It wasn't-
And so there's a testimony, even before he's Yeshua, there's a testimony for Shema, not only hearing, but obeying what he says.
If you look up the word obey, it says Shema. That's the definition of it. It's to hear, but to hear is also to understand and do. in
Right.
heart.
Mhm.
So it's kind of the same word, to obey.
Yeah. I was telling Amanda earlier today, I was listening to Eddie Chumney sometime over the past couple of weeks. And something he said just kind of caught my ear. I don't know if it's the way he said it or not, so I'm going to paraphrase it. But we have the Torah, and he's given us his instructions, but he's left us in this world where all this stuff is going around. Well, he wants us to make our decisions based upon his statutes, based upon what he says. That triggers the whole thing. When we do that, not only are we blessed by that, but we're drawing others at the same time. When they see, not everybody, we're not drawing everybody, but people find out, why do you do that? Nobody has, everybody, there are people that think they have the reasons that pig is unclean. Well, the reason pig is unclean for us is because God said it was unclean. I don't need a medical reason. I don't need maybe they're all good, fine and good. But to try to figure out why he said what he said, it's my job to hear what he said and do it. Not figure out why he said it.
Part of Torah is simply, if you define it, is just simply instruction.
Mhm.
If you go back to any of the teachings of Brad's or most everybody else, it's just instruction. Man tagged the word law onto it from the
Right.
Greek teachings,
Right.
being filtered back into it, so that right away laws are like, something, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what laws are today. We got millions of laws.
Right.
We don't even know they're there.
Right.
We got laws on top of laws. But in really, there's not a lot of instructions in those laws. It's just,
Right.
most of it's don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is all dues.
And loopholes.
Well, it is all dues, if you look at it. It's all instructions of how to do it.
Right.
Dues, not those.
Right. All right. Did Pharaoh know Yah when Moses first went to him? Yes, he said, no, I don't know him. Why should I let his people go? Did Pharaoh have a much better understanding of who Yah was by the 9th plague? I think he did, and he was rebelling against him.
I think you really found out when the water came.
Yeah. Yeah. Did seeing the power of Yah change how Pharaoh handled the situation? No, it didn't at all. It didn't at all.
Yeah, it made him more stubborn.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess you could say that. I guess you could. It strengthened his pride.
Yeah.
And Yah hardened his heart.
Mm-hmm. Right. Pharaoh never changed his mind with respect to Yah. He ended up doing exactly what Pharaoh was created to do. And this is hard for some people to understand. It's hard for them to, why would Yah do that? Well, Paul addressed that in Romans. Who are we to ask? The Creator, he can make vessels, noble vessels and ignoble vessels. And he's patient for a reason. He's patient because he's going to show his supremacy over whatever it is he created. I mean, you can even carry this to the Leviathan thing. No man can take on Leviathan. But it's not a problem for the Creator. Right? There were many years between the covenant of Abraham and the time of Moses, but Yah never lost track of his people. There were many years between the time of the Passover being instituted and our Passover being slain, but Yah never lost track of his people, did he? In fact, it was in that time frame that Yeshua said he had been sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And that's a whole other thing that I hope I can express to those outside of us right here immediately is he punishes his people. He disciplines his people as he's going through. And he made a group of people that were his people, not his people anymore. He put them out just like he put Adam and Eve out of the garden. But that wasn't the end. In fact, he said when he put them out, he was coming back for them. Okay? He's going to be faithful to that. He was back when Yeshua had his ministry here on this earth. It's been a long time since Yeshua, our Passover, was slain until now. He's not lost track of any of us. In fact, he knows we're scattered. He predicted we'd be scattered all over. Deuteronomy 28, doesn't it tell us that? From the farthest points that you are driven out to, I will bring you back from.
He hasn't forgotten anybody everybody where they're at. He says even if he sifted them, not one would be lost.
That's right.
Something like that, so.
Each one of us is here today, and we are a testimony that Yah has not lost track of his people. We're a testimony when we gather together. We're a testimony when we open his word. Although the world around us may not go as we expect it to, we can rest assured that it's going exactly as it was written. And there's nothing going to change that. The Torah was given to us so that we will know how Yah wants us to respond in all that's around us. How he wants us to respond, not react. Oftentimes when you're reacting, you're not thinking. But when you're responding, you're putting a thought into it. I'm doing this because he said to do this, or I'm not doing this because he said not to do it. Our responses and our choices, when aligned with the Torah, it will draw others near. They will see it. Be a disciple and make a disciple. We should learn from those that are around you, and we should teach those that are drawn near. Part of the reason he did this, Yah said, was so that they could tell their sons and their sons' sons and their grandsons. You know, you get it? It's going down. It gets passed down. We're deluded now. Quite deluded. And we need him to straighten this out. And he will. He is coming. That's all I had for this week. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay. We know that other Exodus is coming. We know the greater Exodus is coming. And it's going to be a surprise to some people, the devastation that takes place during that. Yes, ma'am.
It's all in the prophets,
Mhm.
the prophets. Talks about almost, the whole, what's gonna happen and all, the differences between what happens to non-believers
Right.
and believers. And it's actually pretty encouraging because, it's gonna be awful. And just think about, what kind of technology we have in this day and age, and all the things that can happen and can go wrong, and they will. And, but it's also encouraging. I don't know, it's been a while, but I think that's what I'm gonna do for the next week, is go through the prophets again, but, it comes back to the same thing that we talk about all the time. Get in, read your scripture daily, right? And be strong in the word, because it's all there. It's all there. We just have to read it and try and understand it the best we can. Because I know that when October 7th, when Israel was attacked, I panicked. I said, oh my gosh, what if this is it? And I just started questioning everything I thought I knew, right? Do I have this right? Do I, yeah, it's hard, and all of a sudden, I just go through all the list of people that I listen to, and online, and books that I read, and hear, and thinking, okay, who's got it right? Who's got it wrong? And I did panic, but I realized then that, if you're reading, and not just Torah, but the whole, you have to read the whole thing. It's all in there. You reference Revelation a lot, and I think the prophets we overlook the prophets.
Is Yah going to do anything he hasn't already
No.
written that he's going to do?
Everything we need. Amos 3:7? It says, Yah has revealed, everything that we need to know has been revealed. He doesn't do anything without telling his prophets first.
And it isn't always broadcast that such and such is happening, but it was written. And the reason we find comfort in it is because he told us beforehand. It takes the edge away a little bit, I think, if you know it's coming because he said it's coming. It's not a surprise. He's not arriving as a thief in the night for us because it's all been written for us.
Yeah, and we can't rely on, we can't well, I'm not saying that they're all wrong, but I'm saying we can't rely on just anybody, or even, especially the mainstream media, right? And it's written in papers and stuff, because, the bias is just unbelievable.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just unbelievable. Stuff just goes unreported, even,
Right.
and that used to be, you remember growing up, a journalist is unbiased,
Right.
And they still claim that, but I mean, it's so obvious that they aren't.
Yeah, well, the most cunning one that was ever created has also had 6,000 years to work. He's got his plants all over the place. Okay, and then I was sharing with her this morning or earlier. I was reading through the Gospels again this week, and it never ceases to strike me as many of the demons that Yeshua cast out were in the synagogue. They were in the synagogue when he was casting these demons out. And it's like, the wheat and the tare is a real deal. We don't know who we're amongst, right? And I mean, we need him. What's that?
I said not until the harvest.
Right. So, all right, any more comments? Okay, that's all I got. Now it's time to.
Very much to receive the blessing.
Right on.